Pro wrestling is an ever-evolving industry, with encyclopedias being updated, documentaries being released, and relationships mended or destroyed. The attitudes and narratives of wrestling superstars begin to change. Individuals like the Ultimate Warrior, Bruno Sammartino, and others are brought back into prominence, while the history of some of the other bright characters are being washed away or changed. Some are pigeonholed and being remembered for that one event or that one specific moment in time. Others become as insignificant as a crossword answer. My job as PWP's resident historian is to remind you of the impact that these individuals and teams left on the industry. This is PW Profiles. Professional wrestling, there are many superstars who are considered attractions. The Undertaker at WrestleMania, Brock Lesnar in his recent part-time deal, and even Goldberg recently come to mind. In the 80s and 90s, it was Andre the Giant, but before that, it was Haystacks Calhoun. Now, is this a name that you heard a lot, Anthony? I know Haystacks Calhoun is he's one of those, no pun intended, larger-than-life characters.
This seems a little bit of a deep cut. I've probably heard the name from you, probably. But no, this is not a well-known name that I think I've ever heard. I'm looking at a picture of him right now, carrying 2 cows. Seems like a big kind of guy. He's probably gonna eat those cows later. It's all right.
I mean, yeah, he was
quick
definitely.
Google search pulls up the top 5 heaviest wrestlers of all time.
He certainly was one of them.
I'm assuming he's on that list.
He's not only that. I mean, he was really one of the first ones to accentuate the hillbilly persona. You know, he had the bushy beard, overalls, horseshoe, neck chain. But when I say that he was an attraction, it's because, kind of like Andre, he wasn't really booked to win championships. He rarely lost, and he was brought in to show his test of strength with battle royals. He got the name Haystacks because he appeared on a variety show, and he was tossing bales of hay into a loft, hence Haystacks. The most memorable match for him was at Madison Square Garden when he fought Happy Humphrey. Now, if you think Haystacks Calhoun at 600 pounds is big, Happy Humphrey weighed over 750 pounds. So you figure at the time, they had to reinforce that ring.
Yeah, they had to reinforce the local McDonald's, too, after that.
The match ended when Haystacks Calhoun got Happy Humphrey out of the ring, and Humphrey could not get himself back into the ring by the 20 count. So I feel like that was a rib before ribs were truly a thing.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, Haystacks, although I said he didn't really win championships, like Andre, he was a WWF Tag Team Champion. He and Tony Gurria beat Mr. Fuji and Toru Tanaka for the titles. They held them for 6 months. This was at the end of his career, which again is an interesting comparison to Andre, because if you remember, Andre had the tag titles with Haku toward the end of his career. Haystacks is one of those, like I said, he maybe not now so much, but he was just that large-in-life character that would be brought up. Usually, if a wrestling fan, or if someone was a wrestling fan and you were bigger, they would usually call you, Haystacks or Giant Haystacks. He played an influence in being an inspiration for Giant Haystacks, who in WCW was the infamous Loch Ness of the Dungeon of Doom. I mentioned this for Bobo Brazil, but he was listed as one of the 50 greatest superstars in WWE history in the mid-2000s. And Haystacks plays into one of my pet peeves in the WWE Hall of Fame, as in 2017 he was inducted into the Legacy Wing.
Oh yeah,
now
we've heard all about that.
Yeah, I mean, just with all the influence he's had, and being this big guy, being the attraction, essentially being Andre before Andre. You're not gonna let the man have a real induction? Like, I get it, he probably doesn't have any living family members. Or anyone that, like, knows of this. Or cares. But I think someone like him, or others that we'll get into later, definitely deserve more than a WWE Legacy Hall of Fame. It's kind of a, oh yeah, we forgot about you, sorry. But Haystacks Calhoun, I mean, if you are interested in big men wrestling, you know, your Vaders, your Andres, your Undertakers, this is definitely where a lot of that kicked off. And Anthony, I have one fun fact for you before we get out of here.
I love fun facts.
He won, one of his few titles he won was the NWA Florida Tag Team Championship. You wanna take a guess on who he won it with?
The Florida Tag Team. Who was big in Florida at that time? Hit me. Who is it?
You could I almost wonder if this guy was booking this, and maybe he booked himself into a tag team championship before he booked his own divorce. It was Kevin Sullivan.
Kevin. Kevin
but,
Sullivan. What a.
Haystacks Calhoun, like I said, best way to describe him, Andre before Andre. And this is why he is quite possibly the biggest PWP profile to date.